Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, March 30, 2020.
Bushfires likely to have killed about 5,000 koalas in North New South Wales, report finds. Exclusive conservation groups call for emergency endangered species declaration as numbers dropped by up to two-thirds in less than 20 years. About 5,000 koalas in New South Wales are likely to have died in the bushfires, and their numbers may have dropped by as much as two-thirds in less than 20 years, a new report has found. Conservation groups want the state government to make an emergency endangered species declaration for the koalas. The report, commissioned by the Global Conservation Group, the International Fund for Animal Welfare, looked at how fires across 7 regions has affected the koalas already in decline from habitat destruction, climate change, and drought. The Dr. Stephen Phillips, principal research scientist and koala ecologist at the environmental consultants BioLink, which completed the report, said, "We've taken a conservative approach, but we still think that we have lost two out of the every three koalas in New South Wales. It's particular loss in terms of conservation criteria and meets in the guarantee listing almost immediately. The study looked at decline of koala populations over 3 generations, about 18 years, and included the effect of the fires from sorry, 1st October 2019 to 10 January 2020. Losses were estimated to be between 29% and 67%, with further analysis to be completed covering the fires up to 10 February. We realized that the numbers lost were getting quite dire, but we also appreciated there was a need for a careful quantitative assessment of what's happened, Phillips said. The study examined the previous estimate of koala population. It found that in 2012 there were about 5 no, sorry, 54,284 koalas in New South Wales. Before the fires hit 3 generations of koalas, number has fallen by about 20%. And the study looked at more than 100 fires, including multiple areas within those regions previously identified by the New South Wales government as holding key populations, known as areas of the regional koala significance, or ARCs, are areas around the Fort Macquarie on the New South Wales north coast, and the Sydney Basin had been particularly hard hit. Koalas are susceptible to major impacts such as fires because they reproduce relatively slowly, with each female able to produce only a maximum of one joule each year. Phillips said this reproduction rate depended on adequate food supplies and no other disturbance. He added the climate change report suggests conditions would get worse for koalas, which continued stress on the eucalyptus they rely on for food, as well as increasing risk for bushfires. The situation won't get better. It will get worse, he said. For koalas, the threat of extinctions in New South Wales becomes elevated because they won't be able to get their numbers up before the next fire event. Jose Sharad, wildlife campaigner of the International Fund for Animal Welfare, said the state was facing a koala emergency. There are iconic species here and globally. It is unthinkable that we could be at serious risk of losing them in New South Wales. On Tuesday, I forwarded the New South Wales Threatened Species Committee and the Environment Minister, Matt Kim, to ask that koalas be emergency listed to endangered status. Human Society International, Port Macquarie Koala Hospital and the Friend of the Koala also signed the request. An emergency listing could be last for 2 years while further assessments were carried out. Elaine Johnson, principal lawyer at the Environmental Defender Office in Sydney, which advised the IFO on viable steps to protect koalas, said a provisional and guarantee listing would put further restrictions on the development application that affect on koalas and in some cases could stop development. In our view, the report provides a strong basis for a provisional listing, Johnson said. Importantly, the report looks at the ongoing threats from climate change and those risks are likely to increase. We think it's the right time to provide further protection for koalas. Guardian Australia requested a comment from Kian, and New South Wales government statement said it had reconvened an independent expert advisory panel to support the state's koala strategy. This season's significant bushfires have resulted in devastating losses to koala numbers across New South Wales and may have compounded their vulnerable status, so it is imperative the remaining population and the habitats are protected, it said. Although there is no firm estimate of the number of the koalas affected by the recent fires, at this stage approximately 1/4 of the modern koala habitat in eastern New South Wales is within the fire-affected area. Drones with their thermal sensors were being used to help estimate koala population. The Planning, Industry and Environment Department had met with the chair and the deputy chair for the New South Wales Threatened Species Scientific Committee that discussed the immediate impact on our animals, plants and ecosystems and the need for species assessment no longer-term recovery. The department is undertaking analysis of the impact of the recent fires across the state, so we can determine the impact where the greatest impacts on wildlife and native vegetation, the statement said. In an unrelated announcement on Tuesday, King said $150,000 would go to organizations in the North Rivers and the far south coast for six koala habitat restoration projects, which include planting 50,000 koala feed tree seedlings.
Think about climate change and wildlife, they probably think about polar bears and maybe the Great Barrier Reef. Well, we can add koalas to them now.
As many as 30% of koalas in the country's New South Wales region may have been killed.
Fires continue to ravage and destroy their habitat.
The reality is that these fires are not normal. We're in a war zone.
So I know that there's been, loss of human life, definitely loss of property here, but what impact has this fire season had on wildlife in Australia?
Well over 1 billion animals are thought to have died or will soon die in the weeks and months ahead because of the current fires. That's 1 billion. And we've never had a toll like that on our wildlife. But it seems that every few days the statistics get worse. I don't know where it will end by the end of this fire season.
Are there specific species that are particularly being hard hit by this?
Many animals cannot flee these big fires. Either they can't fly, they can't move quickly, they can't burrow, they burn to death. particularly because Australia has bulldozed half of our forests. It's hard for wildlife to flee somewhere else, and that's why you find a lot of animals, including koalas, are wandering into people's backyards, into the streets, looking for some habitat to survive in. When they panic, they climb up a tree. And it works when the fires slow down, but it's almost a death sentence when the fire consumes. It's crown fire, a canopy fire. People have talked about flames up to 200 feet in the air. That's 70 meters. I mean, that is, our trees generally don't grow that big, so any wildlife or birds or lizards that go to the top of the trees to escape a normal fire, they're sitting ducks, really.
So I've seen a lot of particularly hard to watch videos of koalas, basically charred from the fire. Like, are they going to go extinct after this? What's the status of the koala now, and what's going to happen to them?
Our estimation is that koala numbers over the last 230 years have fallen by about 95%, and these fires will be inching that up towards 98, 99% over time. It's important to remember that this bushfire and the climate crisis it has come after a couple of hundred years of decimating koalas and their habitat. So for 100 years, koalas were shot for their pelts, and there's records of 8 million koala pelts being sold in the United States, the UK, and I think Europe up till 1930s, when there was a moratorium put on shooting koalas.
The term functionally extinct has been thrown around in the media during these fires in reference to the koalas. What does functionally extinct mean, and is that true?
The term functional extinction is used for animals where there are only tens or hundreds, not even thousands of animals left. So rhinos or animals where there's 10 or 20 left. We're not there yet for koalas. In Eastern Australia, koalas are listed as a threatened species, but at the lowest level, they're called vulnerable. We think they're now eligible to be uplisted to being an endangered species. There are solutions to these problems. Koalas and polar bears don't need to go extinct, and the term functional extinction doesn't help that.
For people like me at home, like watching this heart-wrenching footage, is there anything we can do to help the situation?
I think the first thing people can do around the world is to read up about what's happening in Australia, because if it's happening in our country, if it's not already happening in your country, it will be in the future of some type as the climate gets worse and worse. We need to convince people who don't care about nature or the climate that particularly decision makers, governments, presidents, prime ministers, you have a role in helping keep these species alive.
This is a bad news. I accompanied on TV during the devastation fires in Australia. Koalas, kangaroos, different species of plants and animal, almost 1 billion are dead. This is a terrible news. I am lover of animals, don't matter species, and think almost 5,000 koalas have died. For me, it's the worst. It's the worst news right now. Unfortunately, Australia and the world have lost this battle against the bushfires. Yeah, I think it is different areas because it was they were devastated for the fires. Will pass it. They will pass many years to recovery. I am sad. I can't to think this about this news. And I think the human race is guilt for the fires, the climate change, on different other bad things happens in our planet, or this planet is not ours. This planet is their planet, the animal planet. Thank you very much for watching my new video. Share this video, comment, give a like, subscribe it on my channel. It's very important for me. Please, and we have a nice day, a good Tuesday. See you tomorrow or another day with the other interesting news. Thank you very much.